analyzing its impact on communities across the province. And we analyze that research and develop legislation, policies, and programs that will strengthen the sector at the provincial level, but also in communities. Some things like the entertainment and creative cluster is an example in terms of policy development, the Ontario Heritage Act to further heritage preservation. So I'm going to talk about two ministry priorities that have relevance to the creative economy and building the creative economy in rural areas of Ontario. The first is one that the Ministry of Culture works with in collaboration with the Ministry of Research and Innovation and with MEDT, my predecessors in this talk. And this sector is one of the fastest growing sectors of Ontario's economy, period. But it is made up of for-profit businesses on the culture sector developing creative content. And those are located across the province. The second priority is related as well to the creative economy. Oh, hi, Dan. This is something that we're working on with a number of ministries, including OMAFRA and the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MEDT, and others in supporting a planning initiative that takes place at the local level, identifying local cultural assets and using those assets to transform and diversify local economies. And this is critically important in rural communities where there has been reliance potentially on single manufacturing economies that are in transition and need to be diversified. And what happens when a community takes its cultural assets and leverages those to not only diversify its economy, but build up the quality of place that makes it an attractive place for people working in the creative economy to come and live and work, and that in turn attracts the businesses that seek them out. So quality of place is very important as well. I'll start with giving you a little bit of information on what we do with the creative cultural industries. It is defined as the concentration of copyright creating and producing industries such as film, television, book and magazine publishing, the music industry, and interactive digital media. So there's our connection with MRI, gaming, video gaming, that sort of thing. And the broader creative cluster in Ontario is enormous. It employs over 200,000 people, or 43% of Canada's cultural industry workforce. And this industry in Ontario alone, between 1999 and 2007, increased by almost 40%, or 80,000 new jobs, far outpacing the overall economy in Ontario. So it's certainly an industry to pay attention to. The way that the ministry supports the growth of this industry is through mainly its relationship with the Ontario Media Development Corporation, which administers a number of tax credit programs which support the different industries within the creative cluster. And those tax credit programs are valued at about $180 million a year. It also provides support through the Entertainment and Creative Cluster Partnership Fund, which provides funding for collaborative partnerships which further the industry through partnerships between the industry, the academic sector, nonprofit associations, and other innovative partnerships that further the sector. And also the Intellectual Property Fund, which was launched last year as a $10 million pilot to really invest in upfront the early stage development for screen-based activities, so the real ideas behind it. in terms of municipal cultural planning, what this is, I described it very quickly, but it's part of that holistic or integrated approach to community building and economic development that I believe Anne-Marie alluded to. And it takes into account what we're really seeing as 4 pillars of economic development and sustainability at the local level, where municipalities and communities have to take into account not only economic prosperity, but integrate that with social, environmental, and cultural factors as well. So municipal cultural planning starts with involving broad community engagement to identify and map local cultural assets, and then develop from that a cultural plan which will strengthen those assets, and then leverage them by integrating culture or adopting a cultural lens when doing economic development strategies or plans, and leveraging those assets to see how they can be strengthened and new creative economy opportunities arise. So it's not simply planning in the old way of cultural planning of thinking about how you fund the local museum and so on, but it's about how you apply that cultural lens when you are doing economic development strategies and using those unique cultural assets in each community, and they'll be very different in each one, and how they can identify local priorities such as diversifying or growing local creative economies. By doing the asset mapping, you will see the unique assets that can in turn become cultural tourism attractions, or as in the case of Prince Edward County, identifying unknown creative industry pockets that exist within a community. It also does things like attract and retain creative economy workers, because the people working in the creative industries tend to want to live and work in very culturally vibrant communities that have heritage assets and so on. And it improves community pride and quality of place, which is critical by revitalizing downtown cores as well as neighborhoods to improve the place where people live and work. And it also is a means of addressing a major rural issue of youth out migration by building pride in the place in which those youth come from, by identifying the cultural values and making it a more vibrant place to live, and in turn attracting new Canadians who have that wealth of talent that Adriano spoke to, as a means of engaging them in a community and welcoming them. I know that Dan Taylor was here at the last seminar talking about the case study of Prince Edward County. This is something that our ministry has been very interested in because there was a focus made on the cultural assets in that community. But very quickly, the profile of the county before Dan arrived on the scene as the economic development officer was that it was an agricultural with some manufacturing economy. After doing some analysis, he figured out that it had absolutely zero competitive advantage for attracting any traditional industry to the county, and that the county was facing a declining population and job losses. So his strategy involved was focused around quality of place. So doing cultural mapping, which is part of municipal cultural planning, and discovering the really important heritage aspects of the county, as well as pockets of creative cultural industries workers, and then developing an economic development strategy with culture as one of the key pillars, along with the artisanal foods and wine and tourism. The municipal cultural plan that was developed ended up winning the Economic Development Council of Ontario's 2007 award